What is up, all my materia hunters? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and it is a big Monday because I'm filming as many videos as I possibly can to get all caught up from when I was sick and when I busted my neck. But nobody cares about that. That's not interesting. I've already talked about it. What do we care about? We care about Archspire. That's what we care about. And I'm actually excited because, you know, I don't know why, but I've only ever talked about Archspire and all these vocals on the channel one time. Who, I don't know. I have no idea. There's a lot of music that comes out and I can't be held responsible to react to every single one. So that's all I know. But I've heard a lot of good things about Bleed the Future. And I'm actually kind of excited because if I remember correctly, IIRC, it's been about 5 months since this song came out, but I'm pretty sure this was crowdfunded. And like a lot of production and stuff was put into it. So I'm kind of excited to see if they've done like a bunch of over the top stuff. Normally when I do these, I'm not actually very excited about the music video. I'm excited about the music and the technique, but I'm actually excited about this music video. So let's go ahead and get into it. But just a couple things first. I myself am a metal vocalist, been doing it for about 14 years. Someday I'm going to go find when I exactly started. Cause hell, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 15. I don't know. I didn't like mark it in my journal when I started doing metal vocals. I wasn't like, this is a monumental moment. I'm also a full-time metal vocal coach. I teach people how to do stuff like, you know, safely and efficiently so they don't hurt themselves and they can, obtain metal vocal mastery, I suppose. And if by the end of the video or at any point in the video you're interested in that, check out cardivoxacademy.com for one-on-one lesson information as well as e-course information. And I'm done talking. So here we go. Archspire, Bleed the Future. Here we go. Oh my God, that's Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, this song already slaps. Jesus Christ. First of all, I always like to get the instrumental stuff out of the way because, you know, I'm not a bassist, I'm not a guitarist, so it's my feedback or my thoughts are pretty quick. But I love where the bass is sitting in this song. I love where the bass is sitting in the song. I can hear it. And it's shredding. It's awesome. I also love the production that they're putting into Ollie's voice here. I love how he's kind of in the middle, and then in some spots where he's barking, it pans out, wide to either side. So I'm sitting there, and it's like, so sick, so sick. Whoever produced this, wow, it was probably this is a social faux pas. I can't remember his name. But I think their guitarist who also has a YouTube channel. I think the guitarist who also has a YouTube channel does their production. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about vocal technique here. I'm going to keep it pretty simple because there's a lot of song to get through, almost 8 minutes of song to get through. But what we are hearing is false chord as false chord could possibly be. And I love this sound, right? A lot of people would call this the old school false chord, like the old school death metal false chord. And I would fervently agree with that. Although, you know, it's unfortunate because sometimes old school carries a negative connotation with it. However, we have Ollie here keeping it extremely modern and extremely interesting, right? One thing that's interesting about his voice is that it's got like a fairly compressed yet also mildly breathy sound to it. Now, when I say breathy, I don't mean breathy in a negative way. I mean it has some of that airflow, right? So if we take a false chord, I'll show you what I mean, and then we're gonna move on. If we take a false chord and we keep it very basic, like this is like, yay, I just learned my false chord vocal, false chord 101, and we have like an eventually we're gonna need to compress it. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Compression is a slippery term. We'll talk about that later, but we're gonna need to take it and we're gonna need to turn it into more of like an from here to a more of like a right. He maintains a little bit of the airflow that we hear in the initial false chord, but it doesn't get in the way of his ability to hold out long phrases and articulate and go rapid fire, because let's face it, that's what this guy's known for, right? Let's go ahead and keep going. I also think it's really interesting where his voice is sitting in this mix. He's very much with the instruments. He's not like on top of the song, but still very audible. I love that this song is letting me pay attention to the guitars and the bass and the drums. Also, like a VR live show would be sick. All right, let's keep going. Dean Lamb. Okay, I gotta pause it. But whoa, I gotta pause it. But already, this song is dope. This song is dope. I am really enjoying this. Let's talk about some breath control with false chord. One of the biggest, I don't want to say drawbacks, because obviously as a almost entirely false chord vocalist, right? As almost entirely a false chord vocalist, also like a retinoidal, epiglottal, blah, blah, blah terms, vocalist, you know, I love the style, but one thing about the style is it tends to be not so efficient with airflow, just by nature of what it is. So if you're going to be a false chord vocalist, you have to eventually, over time, really pay attention to your breath, right? I get students very, very frequently who say like, you know, oh, I've been doing false chord for so long, and, you know, I just can't improve because, you know, I try all these different mouth positions. I try all these different positions with my throat, and I can't hold the scream for more than, you know, half a second. And I'm like, well, your breath support, right? So we're going to go more into breath support later on in the video. But one thing I want you to think about is I want you to think about man, this is a big topic. How do I want to broach this without talking for 45 freaking minutes? Ooh. Your goal with your false chord vocals should be to create the false chord sound with as little work as possible. That is going to be the first step, or I should say one of the first steps in having some breath control, right? So if I take the false chord sound, you know, I say, right? If I take that and I ease back the effort while controlling the distortion, right? You can go really, really fast. Now I was just kind of making up syllables loosely based on an Eminem song. But if we take that as our starting point, if you can get to like 4 to 6 seconds, like let's say like manala, 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 if you can do that, right? You know, you know, so on and so forth, to like 3 to 6 seconds, you're actually doing pretty well with the baseline false chord. And then you're going to move in with strategic narrowing of the vocal tract in order to hold back some of that air. We'll talk about that more in a second. But this is the basis of Ollie's technique, and he's very, 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 very good at it, right? The basic false chord with a lot of control of airflow, right? I want you to think of your effort and your airflow, and I want you to listen to all these voices as we move forward. I want you to think of your effort and your airflow like salt. How much salt goes on a dish? The answer is just enough, right? Just enough to bring the flavors out. Unless we're eating anchovies, then, oh, whoo, I love anchovies. All right, Mark, let's go. could really hear it there. That compressed yet still airflow heavy sound, and it sounds really neat. It really works for this like tech death genre, right? It really works. I also love that they're like eating gratuitous food and playing D&D in the middle of a club. Like, what? I could never play D&D in a setting like this, but it's really fun to watch, right? Okay, so let's talk about finding your baseline false chord sound, right? Now, obviously, I could only go into this so much, but my course on cartervoxacademy.com, false chord fundamentals, gives you a lot more detail into how to find your baseline false chord sound. Gives you a ton of exercises. There's even a section that talks to you about what to do when things go wrong. There's like a list. If you're doing this, this happens. If you're feeling this kind of pain, do this instead, right? But one of my favorite ways to get the baseline false chord sound is to work on a sound called Kargria, right? Now, it does require you to learn how to do Kargria first, but the Kargria sound that you know we all know and love is right? One of the easiest ways to trick yourself into doing this is to not actually try to do Kargria, but to do a gritty pirate voice. Right. I actually had a success with a student just yesterday, where, you know, you don't think about Kargria. Don't think about that sound, because that's a sound you can't make. Instead, be a pirate, you know, yar, I'm a pirate. Yar, I'm a pirate. Yar, I'm a pirate. Now say it in slow motion. Yar, I'm a pirate. Might not go that fast for you, but that's a way I trick a lot of my students into being able to do it, right? We think about anything else. Usually I distract them for like 4 or 5 minutes talking about movies. And they're like, why are we spending so much time in a lesson talking about movies? And then boom, they get it because I've made them look over here, a little leisure domain, right? But if we take this false chord sound, this Kargria sound, and we sigh it out, we let it drop, but we hold on to the grit, it's going to sound like this. Right? Now, instead of sighing and releasing the air, I'm going to lean into the air, right? Right? And then we have a basic false chord sound, something that you can work with, right? Another way to do it, I'll keep this really, really short. Another way to do it, if that Kargria method is just not working for you, is to very, very gently, just do little throat clears. I obviously didn't create this technique, nor the Kargria technique. They've been around for a long time. But the thing about the throat clear technique that I enjoy is that everybody is built to do it. That doesn't mean it's as easy for everybody as everybody else, right? But if you go back in time, like 300, 400,000 years to mitochondrial Eve, everybody's mommy, if you go back far enough, if at one point she was eating a piece of rabbit or some sort of berry and it went down the wrong tube, if she can do this, that's it. None of us are watching YouTube right now. Nobody lives, right? So it's built into your body to be able to protect your airway and keep food out and liquid out of it, right? So if we take this, if you can do that, I promise you can do false chord. And if you can't do that, you can. Give it some time. But we take this. The moment we have that, move away from the and move it to a yeah. Open up. Yeah. Lean in. Yeah. There's your false chord, right? Let's keep going. What? Yo, that was sick. We might need to listen to that again before I talk about it. Man, the interplay between that guitar riff and Ollie's voice was so good. Wow. That was really cool. I'm going to go back. This is worth listening to. And then I want to listen to it one more time before I talk about it. Dang. That's musicianship right there. That's one of the sickest things I've heard in a long time. That is one of the sickest things I've heard in a long time. And I'd like to explain to you why. Now, I don't have like a lot of music theory under my belt. So I have to kind of just talk about it as vibes, right? But I love, first of all, that guitar riff. Like that guitar riff, that is like any vocalist is going to hear that guitar riff and they're going to be like, oh, ooh, I'm gonna mess with this. I'm gonna mess with this, right? That is a vocalist's playground of a riff. However it went, I don't have it memorized, right? But I love, and I think that this is one of the main reasons why, you know, I'm going to mention something here. So on the rare and small chance that Ollie watches this video, bear with me here. Sometimes a small group of people have said to me, and I have read on the internet, that they feel like the rapid fire vocals are a little bit gimmicky. Maybe, but no, I don't think so, right? Because it's not just mindless rapid fire over music, right? Yeah, he's got his thing, like that's what he's known for, but he was coming in and out, following the guitar and moving away from the guitar very, very intentionally, sometimes going along with it, but then moving away and doing his own thing, in and out. His vocal composition was kind of like a tide moving over like the beach of that riff. And it was so sick. God, it was, and you know, sometimes I like stuff like that a lot more than the sound of the vocal. I mean, his vocal sounded perfect. And it was also like a little bit more reserved, right? Because now I wasn't in the studio with him. I can't tell you what I was thinking when he was working on these vocal melodies, but it was so cooperative. It was like watching, I don't know. I would love to see this performed live because the two of them interplaying together, super cool, right? I love how he was keeping, for the majority, he opened up for some vowels, but I love how he was keeping that low very chewy and in the front, right? And so what I mean by that is we can take our voice and we can do sort of like a Sylvester Stallone, right? Hey, Adrian, hey. And when we do that sort of very stereotypical, like Sylvester Stallone, right? New York sort of, you know, I've had a ton of students from New York and all of them sounded like me. I'm just really, you know, I was hoping for like an, hey, I'm walking here, but I haven't met one yet, right? Anyway, so if we take this very stereotypical, and we put it with our false chord, right? I can be right here, spit it out, I can go really fast, throw a little bit of compression on that. I promise we'll talk about that in a second. Throw a little bit of compression on that so it's a little easier to control. So we take it from and make it more of like an you can do so much with that pattern-wise. Okay. We got more song to listen to, Mark. That was very cool. That was very cool. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, I'm gonna pause it because I feel like we have like a little short film break, and I want to talk about some music. Like, so when I first really became aware of Archspire, it's when I did my initial reaction video like 3 or 4 years ago. And at that time, I was really only listening to atmospheric black metal. That's like, it's like all on my personal time. That's all I was listening to. That and like, you know, like trance music, a little bit of EDM. So I kind of like was aware of these guys, but never really dug into them. Yo, this is some of the best, and this is obviously my subjective opinion. This is some of the best metal musicianship I've heard in a long time. The way that they can have so much going on, yet everything is sitting in its place and cooperating is like blowing my mind right now. Blowing my mind right now. So cool. And, you know, it's no surprise. It's no surprise, right? Because, you know, Dean is an exceptional guitarist, right? But like, I guess I was not aware. I always knew these guys were good. If somebody was like, hey, Mark, should I listen to Archspire? I'd be like, yeah, you're going to love it. But I guess like right now I'm just realizing like, holy crap, this is a good song, y'all. This is a really good song. Man, I almost wish I was just listening to this for fun and not having to pause and analyze it. I will always pause my videos. If you don't like that, download Spotify. Anyways, let's keep going and then we'll talk a little bit about compression and what I mean by that at the end. But wow, I'm like literally, man, this song is good. Whoa. Stay tech, stay tech. Oh, is that it? I think that's it. Oh, we got outtakes and stuff. Okay, I would love to watch that. We don't have the time for that. I got a lot more videos to do. Okay, so the song was over. I already went on. This is probably one of my favorite metal songs I've heard in a while. Very, very cool. Big ups. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about compression. The first thing I want to say about compression is I don't like the term. I don't really like it. But I don't know of a better one. I'm not really sure of a better way to describe it. The reason I don't like it is because of the image it generates in the mind of the new vocalist, right? When we say compression, the concept that comes to mind is a hard pressing of the vocal tract. And in reality, just like the salt metaphor, it doesn't take much. Okay. Now that I've described why I don't like the term, but I can't think of a better one, let's talk about what it is. Oh man. Sorry. My I would love to headbang to this song more, but my herniated disc, my C6, C7 disc is really, it's causing me some problems. Ow. Anyway, the show must go on. So when we talk about compression, right, what we're essentially doing is we're talking about holding some of the air back, right? We're talking about holding some of the air back. And in the context of metal, what that generally involves is a strategic constriction of some combination of tissues above the vocal tract, right? Now, what it should not include is a heavy constriction of the vocal cords themselves or the glottis itself. The glottis, you can think of the glottis as the space that the vocal cords live in, right? Your vocal cords do not do well with large amounts of what is called subglottal pressure. Okay. Subglottal pressure is exactly what it sounds like. Pressure under the glottis. So a lot of the times when people try to compress their vocals, what will happen is they will squeeze their vocal cords together and then they will get hoarse. They will get tired. They may still sound cool because you can do metal vocals wrong and it still sounds amazing. They may still sound cool, but I get a lot of students who they put up really awesome covers, but then the other side of that is they can't do vocals for 3 days. Much of the time it comes from a hypercompression or really a compression at all of the actual vocal cords, right? Now you may be out there thinking, well, Mark, what about fry? Fry requires such a small amount, if we're talking about the traditional power fry, right? So what is the proper way? This is actually what I'm working on for another one of our e-courses. Our first one has done so well, we're thinking about making some more. But essentially, short version is the best way to do this is not while you are doing metal vocals. It is while you are speaking or whispering, right? So what do I mean? One thing that you need to do to be able to compress your vocals, if we're talking about a healthy and steady way, is to create a very good relationship, a very good working relationship between your mind and your body, understanding what you feel, building that sense of proprioception. Proprioception or proprioception is our ability to feel and understand our body in Z space when we can't necessarily see it, right? Like I can tell that my left toes are curled right now because I can feel that, and that signal is sent to my brain. It's probably more complicated than that, but that's enough for us right now. Okay. So when I do a voice like this, hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hey, yeah. I can feel that my tongue is squeezing and sort of going back a little bit. I can feel that my soft palate is also squeezing, right? It's kind of like doing like a tightening here. And the walls of the pharynx are coming inward. I can also feel right behind my tongue a narrowing of the top of the laryngeal funnel, right? Probably more so actually down by the arytenoid cartilages, which are above your vocal folds and false cords. However, my vocal cords themselves are not squeezing, right? Now, you're going to hear a little bit of a buzz, and that might be like, oh, Mark, your vocal cords are buzzing. That's a combination of me coming off of COVID and also me having really bad acid reflux. And this herniated disc, I have to lay absolutely flat so I can even get an hour of sleep at a time. Unfortunately, what that does is that causes my acid reflux to wash over my vocal cords all night. Normally, I sleep up at an angle. So it's been a shit time. But I'll show you what I mean, okay? So I'm here, right? Now I'm going to make that voice. Oh, yeah, right. And if I release that squeeze on top, you can hear that the quality of the vocal cords isn't changing, right? So what would it sound like if it was changing? This is what I like to call bong breath, because it's a lot like, taking a hit from like a bong or a pipe. Not that I know anything about that. I went to college. I was a cheapskate. I didn't want to pay for those big glass things. I was using soda cans and apple cores and Starbucks cups. I don't know if I should have said that, but whatever. Ludo, leave it in. But that has like this sound, right? Oh yeah, man, that's good shit. That's good shit, man. That's really good. And so if you hear that sound, yeah, you're cruising for a bruising. And if I release the squeeze, you'll hear that that's still there. I challenge you to a duel, sensei. It's also kind of like an anime voice. Like, think about like you're really shonen anime characters. Right? Every single movement they make. Nandayo. Right? We want to be relaxed. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. And you really should focus on being able to create that voicey sound without the squeeze of the vocal cords before you even apply it to your false chord. But now what if I take my false chord, my open, like old school false chord, and I put it through that, then you get more of a compressed sound. And you can hold it for longer, right? You can Some may say, well, Mark, that's not a false chord anymore. That's an arytenoidal, epiglottal, backflip, triple sow cow, I'm angry on the internet vocal, to which I would say I don't give a fuck about convention. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. I have a spicy sense of humor, but really, I don't really run into anybody on the internet being mean. Everybody's like, everybody I have met through this career has been beautiful and supportive and lovely. I just like to have a little spice in my sense of humor. But Archspire, Bleed the Future, incredibly good song. Ollie, excellent on vocals. There's so much more we could have talked about. Breath support. We could have talked about breath support exercises, but this is already a 32-minute video, and there's just not enough time to cover everything he was doing. Maybe we'll get him on the channel. We almost did a while ago, but I just think our schedules didn't line up. But anyways, if you want all the information that you would need to start being able to do some of these rapid fire vocals, definitely check out cartervoxacademy.com. Hit me up, check out the e-course, or watch a bunch of my videos where I do have time to talk about breath support and things like that. All right, that's enough. I got to take a break. My neck is hurting. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.